Welcome, welcome. Hello, everyone. Wherever you are and whatever time it is, welcome. And welcome back to the channel. Today's video will be much shorter than last one, as we're going to go straight to it and through it. And with the information, so we're going to make it, a lot easier for you to be able to follow up and use it as reference. Okay, let's begin. Today we're doing the blocks section. The first block is the say for 2 seconds block. This block, right here, this block, its purpose is to allow you to enter text into the section where it says hello, and also input a number where it says 2, and then the block, once used in code, will cause your sprite to say that text for the amount of seconds you told it to with the number you put inside, and then we'll stop showing the text after that. So a quick example, okay, when the sprite's clicked, okay, let's move this out of the way so it isn't confusing. We'll go back to the sprite here. Okay, we're going to use the looks block. We're going to say hello for 2 seconds. So once we click our game, we told it say hello for 2 seconds, and then it'll say hello with a little text box, and then it'll disappear. It's a little different than the next block, the say block. The say block will say whatever is input in the field, and will not stop saying it until you stop it or input another block that gives it something else to say. So for example, we'll use this block instead. When we use this block, it'll say hello, and it's not going to stop saying hello. As you can see, hello, 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 hello. It's just going to keep saying that. Even though it's not saying over and over, it said it once, and it's not going to stop. The only way to stop it is if we tell it to stop, or if we put another block after. We can wait a few seconds, and let's stop it by saying hello, goodbye. All right? Then it'll stop saying hello, and it will say goodbye. Okay? All right. Next, we have the think blocks, which is here, right? We have think for 2 seconds, think for 2 seconds, and think block, right? The first think for 2 seconds block, this does the same thing the say block, say for seconds block does, except if we pay close attention to the text box next to your sprite, you'll notice that instead of a text bubble, you'll have bubble thoughts. So as an example, let's use say think. If you pay attention to the box right here, when the character speaks, you notice he has the dot section, right? So that's the difference. It does the same thing. The same thing goes for the block, just the think block. This one, same thing, text box, nothing else, right? And it's going to keep saying it just like the other one does, unless you tell it to do something different. Okay. Next, we have the switch costume block. So that one, switch costume 2 block. This one is used often, and its purpose is to allow the user to go to a specific costume of their choice on command. Using the drop-down menu, which is this one, right here, you will see more than one sprite. If you have more than one, you can choose from costume. Similar to the other drop-down menus, circular blocks can be used. So we have more circular blocks. We can put this in there. You can interject the circular blocks into just about anything, even though that doesn't really make sense right now. You can put other circular pieces in there, okay? And it'll work. It'll still work, okay? You have to be creative and figure out how to make that work for you, though. But circular blocks can be placed inside to make it more specifically fit your needs. An example would be to pick, the pick random block and put it inside there, and it would randomly choose between the costumes that you have there as an option. Next, costume also switches. So this may be a little confusing. Next costume is going to go. Okay, so next costume also switches the costume, right? So if I click next costume, it'll switch. However, there's only 2 costumes. So when it gets to the second costume, the next costume is going to be the first one again. So that's really how it works. So even though I have only 2 costumes, it will cycle back to the beginning every time it gets to the end of the costume list. Same thing it will do with yours. If you have more than 1 or 2 or 3 or so on. Okay. The switch backdrop works very similarly excuse me, to the switch costume block, except obviously it's going to do that with your backdrops instead. Again, same thing, you can plug things into this section, different things, and it'll allow you to do that as well. Under the switch costume block, you notice there is no random, but you do have random when it comes to the random backdrop block. Okay, I mean switch backdrop block. All right. Next we have the change size by 10 block. So let's grab that. All right, now when we click it, if you look at the number, let's start it at 100. If you click it, this number will say 110. As you can see, every time I click it, it's going to say a bigger number by 10, because that's what I told it, change the size by 10. So I'm going to set it back to 100. And let's go over exactly how this block works. So the block is used to change the size of your sprite based on the value input in the number section, right? If you put a negative number, it will get smaller by that number put inside. The block will not expand the sprite beyond the max size amount chosen by Scratch, which is good to keep in mind if you wanted to make something bigger than that limit. So say I wanted something that was 1,000, right? If you take a look at this number, it's 1,000 here, and the size, I'm telling it to go to 1,000, right? Change by 1,000. I'm telling it to jump by 1,000, so it'll go to 1,000. It will go to 1,100 if it was possible. However, when we click it, we notice that it only goes to 540, right? So 540 is the max size that we're going to be able to get out of this thing. Okay, so that's what it meant. What I meant by it won't allow you to go past a certain size. So if I wanted it to be bigger than that, what I would have to do in my own mind is I would have to make the sprite bigger in the costume per se. So I could make this bigger, like so, and now it got bigger. Okay, but that's something you'd have to code separately or make new costumes to do that as such. All right, so let's undo that to keep it back to normal, and get it back to normal, and let's put this back to normal. Note that changing the size by 0 means that it's not going to change at all, and so it will stay at 100 no matter what, and changing the size will permanently change this number, which means you have to change it either manually with in your code in here, or you would have to code to change the size back to normal. All right. The set size block is different from the change size block because this 100% is always going to be relative to the 100 here. All right, it will always see this as 100% of its size. Okay, and so whatever I'm going to change it to, say I say 50, it will go down to 50% of the size. I gotta tell it when to do that, and to do that, I'm gonna tell it to do it now when I start the game. However, if I want to set it to a bigger number, I can set it to 1,000% of its size, which is a much different number, etc., etc. I can't go no. Exacting brand fresh. There we go. There you go. Okay. Still, the biggest number it can go to is where it'll go. All right. Now, again, you have to reset the size yourself back to normal, or in this case, normal is 100% of the size, which is 100. Okay. So the number that it will look to is 100%. All right. After that, we have the change effect blocks. Change color effect block, right? Now there are several of these, and we're going to go through them all really quickly. The first would be change color effect. To me, it's one of the coolest blocks in Scratch. This whole effect block. You can have a lot of fun with it and do a little cool stuff with it. We'll maybe get into that another time. But it has several options. If we click it, you can see them all. Okay, we'll go through them each. They're all very unique. The first option allows you to change the color of your sprite to a different color based on the number you put inside the numbers section at the start. And they start from 1 here and go to different effects have different numbers. Yes, essentially. So if I click this block, notice the color of the sprite changes. Okay. And it's going to keep going up by 25 the more I use this block, because I say change effect by 25, not to 225. Okay. If you use the, I'm gonna reset it back to normal. Okay. Even though I didn't have to, and I'm going to use the fisheye. Now the fisheye similarly will cause the sprite to spread out from the middle in a circular shape. And the bigger the number you use is the more it'll happen, the faster it'll happen. So we can start at 0 and we won't see anything. All right, we can click, nothing will happen. If we check to 25, it will start to happen, and it will happen very slowly. Go by a bigger number, it will increase faster. All right. All right. Now we have the swirl feature. All right, or whirl feature, I should say. So with the whirl feature, our sprite will turn into a spinning image, twisting around its middle point. Okay, the bigger the number, faster the effect takes place. As you can see, whirly, whirly, whirly image. All right. Now, we have more effects. We have the pixelate. Now, the pixelate will constantly change your sprite back to what is known as pixels, which are used to make up all images that we draw. We start from the smallest square, and each dot is a pixel that we use to create the image. So it tries to imitate going back to that shape. As you can see, the squares. It tries to imitate it and go as close to 1 square as possible to represent your image, which is obviously completely different, but it's an effect, right? Cool. That being said, the bigger the number, the faster it happens. The faster it gets closer to 1 number, or to 1 square, I should say. Okay, cool. Mosaic, it will change your sprite into squares, and then in replicates or copies of that image in the square. So it's going to fill the same space, and it's going to keep trying to create more replicas in that same space, or more copies, as we'll call them, right? Cool. The brightness effect, which is next, okay, will do something cool that we all can understand. It will lighten the image continuously the more you use it, but until you can't even see it, gone. All right, pretty straightforward piece. And lastly, we have the ghost effect. All right, but this one is really cool because it has a really cool effect to it. Let's clear the effect so we can see it. Okay, now when we use the ghost, it doesn't get brighter, it actually disappears, right? Fortunately for us, if we click on this guy, he's still there, and we could actually be moving him and clicking on him, right? Fortunately, we can't now because they're at 100% ghost effect, so you can't see him at all, but it's still there. Notice I can't click it and move it. However, if I put it at 99, start it over, should be able to still move it. I think I can go to, yep, see, there you go. I'm still able to grab it and move it even though I can't see it, right? So it's still there, it's still viewable, it still exists, it still has an impact on your, your experience, and a lot of times that's used to make something clickable, even when you don't want it to be seen. So you can block something out or the like, right? Not to give you too many ideas, but that's what I use Ghost Effect for when I use it. Now that you've seen all the effects, we have a set effect to 0 block. What that does is the effect that you put on. Say we use, or even if you haven't put it on yet, let's set this effect to 25. When we do that, we know for a fact it's going to stay there. It's not going to change no matter how many times this block is called or used. Same for any of the other effects. It has the same options. Okay, you choose a number that you put in here, and it's going to stay at that, just like any set block will do. All right, and now finally, the clear graphics effect block will remove any effects you have on this sprite alone. It won't change the effects you put on other sprites. This one has a whirl effect, right? However, when we click on our clear block, it doesn't go away. Okay, it will only clear what's on this one. All right, that's it. Now we have the show block, okay, which is kind of self-explanatory, but it allows your sprite to be seen. And why you would need to call the show block is if you've hidden something. Similar to these eyes, if you see these eyes, you can tell if it's hidden or not. However, if you notice, when I hide it, I can't interact with it, similar to 100% ghost. Okay, I can't even find it to move it and click it. I can't interact with it. Nothing can be done with that sprite while it's hidden. So the show block brings it up to be able to be seen, similar to that, clicking one of these buttons. All right. Now, a better way to show the next block, which is the go to front layer block, would be, yeah, let's do it like this. So we have, as you can see, two cats, right? Now you notice if I move one, if I click one, right, and I click the other one, the one that I click last always comes on top. So what if I don't want that to happen? What if, say I made a head, let's say, and I have eyes, say I wanted little cat eyes, and I wanted it to stay in front, where eyes belong, in front of your head, something like that, all right? I can tell this sprite, when the game starts, always be in front, okay? Always go to the front layer. So once I start my game, even if I click this one and it's behind, it's going to come up in front, okay? And be where I want it to be. Even if I've moved and tried to change things or whatever the case may be, when the game starts, it'll come to the front, all right? Or when I tell it to, it'll come to the front. Now, you can also make it go to the back, which is, again, just a matter of clicking the drop down, okay? And now it'll go to the back instead of going to the front. How that differs from the next piece, which is to go forward, is if I have more than one layer, right, then I can tell which one of these pieces I want to go forward or backward based on that. So I could have a third cat, let's say, and it needs to be behind this one that's here, right? I want this cat to be in the very back, and this one to be here, and this one to be on top of that, right? However, I need it to be able to go forward based on the layers, or backward based on the layers. That will change the number here, okay? And that will tell me where to put it in the block, in the lineup of layers that I'm looking to use, all right? Next, we have these inserts, right? As we've spoken about before, you can plug any insert anywhere that has an open space. So change ghost effect by costume number. It doesn't make sense per se in this scenario, but it works. So if you ever need it, there you go. That's what those do. All right, you can plug these in. You can change the costume by costume number or by costume name, right? What that means is if you want to switch to costume number 2, you can go costume number. As you can see, there's a number for the costume here. However, there's also costume name. If that is easier for you to work with, you can change it by costume name. Okay? All right? Little things like that. So don't be afraid to use the blocks. Whatever works for you is what works for you. Get the best out of Scratch and have fun. All right? Thanks for watching. And as a side note, really quick before we go, you have these buttons here. It'll turn them on in your screen so you can see what it is, the value the computer has for these values. So if I say the sprite size is 100 and I put 100 in ghost effect, it will tell my ghost effect to go to the value of 100. That's how inserts work. Okay, it doesn't see it as a sprite, it sees it as a number. Okay? All right. Thanks for watching, and as usual, scratch you later.